To launch Act 3 of Heresy, we got access to a couple new artifact perks for Strand, and one of them gives us just insane access to Woven Mail, and I wanted to create an entire build around this. So how it works is with the 2 Shreds artifact perk, when you kill severed enemies, you create Woven Mail hotspots. So I took this to Titan, which is already one of the best at Woven Mail uptime for you and your team, and just absolutely maximized it. So we're using Into the Fray, we're using Frenzied Blade as much as possible to sever enemies, and we've absolutely juiced the melee regeneration in this, so we can use Frenzied Blade all the time and just get these Woven Mail hotspots and have really high uptime on that Woven Mail. On top of that, we have Banner of War, which is always excellent and gives us boosted damage on those melees, and will also give us and our team healing. So what we've got here is a really strong team support, aggressive play build. I call it the WarPriest, and it just fits perfect with this. It's really fun, it's really active, and it's also just really great for your team. See, here we're just destroying this boss in this Legend campaign mission, and it's already done. Let's get into it. I'm Engineer. Just giving an overview of the build, our goal here is to sever, provide Woven Mail, and heal yourself and allies as much as possible. This is aggression and team support and enemy debuffs all in one, which is I think what the Strand kit embodies. You use this generally for ad clear and like boss encounters. I don't know if this would work very well in raids or dungeons as much, but it probably would help in some dungeon content just to help support your team a bit. It's gonna shine really well I think in nightfalls or seasonal activities and things like that. I've tested this up to 15 power level under. I haven't had a chance to run it in a GM, but I think it'd probably do pretty well there. You're just gonna have to be careful, but also commit to just the playstyle. On the pro side, this is the highest uptime on Woven Mail for any class, and it's for the whole team. And just a reminder, Woven Mail is 45% damage reduction and is one of the strongest damage resistant sources in the game. We're gonna have lots of Sever. Normally that reduces an enemy's output by 40%, but with artifact perks, this will reduce enemy damage output by 52%, which is crazy and is more than any existing damage resistance source that's based on a verb. We were going to get area healing with Banner of War, which is just really great support for both us and the team. And then the crucial part here is we get up to 1,385% melee regen. And I just checked the math on that again because that's a crazy number, but it's really helpful. Now, you will not always have that, but you can have it up pretty often, and that's great. Now on the con side, you do have to play up close. There's no range play of this build. It is built on being up close, and it is artifact reliant, but we still have at least 3 months of this artifact, so let's enjoy it. And it's going to require some coordination. If your teammates are constantly like sniping your kills out from under you, it's going to make it really frustrating, really hard to use. I don't recommend it in that case. I did a Nightfall earlier just testing it out a little bit, and somebody with a bow just kept shooting people right before I meleeed them, and it was infuriating. So maybe don't play with randoms. They won't appreciate the support, but otherwise very good. So the first thing I want to talk about is the artifact perks, because this is what's driving a lot of this build. So this is my Tablet of Ruin that I currently have equipped on my Titan. In column 1, it's 100% flexible based on what weapons you're using. Use whatever you need for champion counters. In column 2, the most important ones are the 2 Strand ones, Unraveling Orbs, which is free unraveling rounds when you pick up an orb, and then Vile Weave. Vile Weave is very important. It will make your tangles sever, and then it will reduce the tangle cooldown whenever you pick up a tangle. This is something you want to coordinate with your team on. Your tangles will be providing Woven Mail, so that's very valuable. If your teammates don't have a use for them, make sure they don't destroy or throw them, because you can use them and provide more team benefit, because tangles that your teammates make are outside the tangle cooldown for you, so keep that in mind. You can also take Volatile Marksman. This is just free volatile rounds if you're using anything void. I don't really use it much in this build, but it's just a good option if you want something. In column 3, the most important one here is Disruptor Spike. This is what increases the effectiveness of Sever. And then I take Elemental Siphon because it will help you make a little bit of elemental pickups, which doesn't get around the tangle cooldown. But when you boost this and you pick up those elemental pickups, it'll give you 3% super energy. And as we're picking up tangles pretty often, that's pretty helpful. In column 4, our Strand perk is Horde Shuttle. So this will make Threadlings when you deal weapon damage to unraveled enemies, and when boosted, it will make those Threadlings sever enemies, which is really helpful. Now for the other perk, you can pick either Flashover or Maligned Harvest. Those are Arc or Void artifact perks respectively. Whatever works for you. It's just kind of depending on what other weapons you have, but you don't really need them in this build. In column 5, I recommend Heavy Ordnance Regeneration. This will give you plus 85% melee and grenade regen when you get machine gun hits in a short window. It's just very solid for extra regen, and it will also give you a little bit of damage resistance. And then I recommend 2 Shreds. This is one of the new ones that was added this week with Act 3, and this is what creates those Woven Mail hotspots whenever you defeat severed enemies, and is really crucial to the build. So let's talk about our exotic. Now, my goal here was to, looking at Titan, the only way in the class to get Sever is Frenzied Blade. So my thought was, how do we keep the uptime on that the highest? And I went to a tried and true exotic, and that is Heart of Inmost Light. This requires Forsaken, but it can be acquired from any exotic source if you own Forsaken. And the short description of it is, when you use one ability, it boosts the other 2, and that includes your grenade, your class ability, and your melee. Each ability tracks its boosts separately, and there are 2 levels of boost. So if you want to boost your grenade up to 2, you have to use your class ability, and then you have to use your melee, and that will boost the grenade up to 2. Each tier will give regen boost, and for your grenade and your melee will also give damage boost. One really cool thing about this on Strand is grapple melee, because grapple melee is both a grenade and a melee, so it will give you class times 2, grenade times 1, and melee times 1 off of that one ability, and that really helps Heart of Inmost Light work even better. Class regen is the weakest portion of this loop. It only does plus 25% or plus 50% base class regen, so you want to build in some ways to get some class ability regen whenever you're using Heart of Inmost Light. But grenades and melee do get significant regen buffs. At 1 stack, it's plus 400% additional regen, and at 2 stacks, it's plus 800% base ability regen, which is just a crazy amount. Now, this does only last for 5 seconds, so you need to keep looping those abilities consistently, but you can get pretty decent uptime with it. You just have to kind of keep in mind the rotation of your abilities. One thing to mention is that the buff display is not accurate. You have to kind of keep track of this in your head, because what the buff display shows is not accurate to what you're actually receiving. So just something to keep in mind, but not a huge deal. For our first aspect, we are going to take Into the Fray, and this is our other source of Woven Mail beyond the 2 Shreds artifact perk. And whenever you destroy a tangle, whether it's throwing or shooting it, will create that same exact hotspot from 2 Shreds that creates Woven Mail and does just a little bit of healing. Additionally, when you cast your super, you will also get Woven Mail, and that's really helpful. But the biggest thing here that we really want to go for, because we are getting Woven Mail from the other source, is that anytime you have Woven Mail active, you get plus 300% base melee regen speed. So this is one of our most consistent melee regen speed buffs. As I mentioned earlier, Frenzied Blade is the only source of Sever in the Titan subclass, so just here is the snip from the Destiny Data Compendium on this ability. It hits pretty hard, but it actually starts regenerating faster the more charges you get. So once you get 2 charges, you actually get almost double regen speed. It's 195%. Now, that's not base regen speed, that is a straight scalar on it. So our 1385% regen speed we talked about earlier would almost be doubled if you already have 2 charges. So all that to say, crazy melee regen in this. You will have your abilities up pretty often. Our second aspect is Banner of War. This does several things. You kick it off by getting a melee kill and starts up the stacks of Banner of War. And then as you and your teammates get kills, it will increase the stacks but make it a little bit harder to upkeep. Every time it pulses, you restore 20 HP. That starts out every 2.5 seconds, but at maximum stacks, it's going to happen every 1 second. So that's 20 hit points every second. Now, stacked up with our Woven Mail and our damage resistance, that's pretty good effective health. Now, the other main reason we are running this is because it gives us 40% increased melee damage, which is going to help us secure kills better and really keep the whole loop running. So that's really helpful. That happens at all stacks, so very good. Now, one thing to note too is that increased melee damage does apply to our super, so that is really helpful in just dealing out a little bit more damage in our build. Now, our super is Blade Fury. It is the only Strand Titan super, but it is really good. For grenade, we take Grapple Grenade because it also counts as a melee and will benefit from Banner of War. It has an 87.5% flat gain factor. It's actually the shortest cooldown Strand Grenade there is, so that's really good. Now on your melee, that's Frenzied Blade as we discussed, and that has a 70% flat gain factor, which is a little bit of a bummer. And then lastly, for our Barricade, we absolutely want Rally Barricade because it has the shortest cooldown, and that helps keep that Heart of Inmost Light loop going. For our Fragments, we want to take Thread of Generation because it will just give us grenade regen as we deal damage. Thread of Continuity will make the Unravel and Sever we inflict last 50% longer. And then we're going to take Thread of Fury because it is one more source of melee energy. So when you deal damage with tangles, melee energy. Really helpful and pretty strong. Lastly, I'm taking Thread of Ascent, and this gives you free reloads whenever you activate that grenade ability. It just, with how quickly we're looping the ability, I generally never reload, and that's really helpful. But some other alternates to think about, you can take Thread of Warding to get a little bit more Woven Mail on orb pickup, but it only lasts for 5 seconds. This would just be helpful in boss encounters. We can't necessarily make those Woven Mail hotspots as easily because you can't secure a kill, like if the ads have stopped spawning. There's also Threat of Isolation, which will let you sever enemies by getting rapid precision hits on them. That can once again be helpful in some boss situations. Moving over to mods and armor stats, pretty straightforward setup here. We were building for orbs and super, and then we're going to build for ability energy. We're not very weapon focused, so we don't need any weapon surges or really much weapon support at all. For our super energy, we're going to take 2 hands-on mods because we were doing so many melees. Cool thing is those hands-on mods will apply to grapple melee as well, so they work for both of our abilities, and that's just really helpful. In terms of orb generation, we will be taking a heavy-handed on the gauntlets, and then we will also be taking a Reaper on the class item just to make orbs there. For ability regen, we're going to take a focusing strike on the gauntlets. Any of these melee mods count grapple melee as a melee, so both your grenade and your melee will generate more class ability energy. And then we also have momentum transfer. On our legs, I'm just taking absolution, enervation, and invigoration just so orbs give us a little bit of every ability energy. And then on the class item, I'm taking a utility kickstart because once again, the class ability is the weakest part of the Heart of Inmost Light loop, and that'll help keep that up. And then we're just taking an outreach to get a little bit more melee energy every time we cast that class ability. For our stats, max out resilience, max out strength, get as much discipline as you can and as much recovery as you can, and then just get intellect to 30. For our weapons, my goal with my weapon was to get as much melee energy as I can and get some kind of melee damage boost. What I landed on was a Pugilist-One Two Punch Shotgun. Pugilist gives you 10% melee energy normally before flat gain factors. With Frenzied, we would get 70% of that, so that'd be 7%. But on shotguns and some other special weapons, Pugilist will give double the energy. So we'll get 14% melee energy every time we get a kill with the shotgun. 1-2 punch, after we land most of the pellets at a shot on an enemy, we will get double melee damage for like 1.3 seconds. It's not very long, so you want to shoot and then immediately follow up with a melee. But for stronger targets, this can be really helpful for securing that kill and just making sure you can burn them down quickly. Now, we have a lot of options for this that are fairly recent. My personal favorite is Swordbreaker from Crota's End. This is Strand, so it synergizes with all the Strand verbs, and you can get unraveling rounds on it. And on top of that, it has an origin trait that when you get a melee kill, then the weapon kills with this weapon will cause explosions for a short time, which can just get you more energy, more kills, and it's great. Some arc options are Found Verdict from Vault of Glass and Prophet of Doom from Garden of Salvation. Both of these are craftable, just like Swordbreaker is. Those have both been recently reprised, so they're very fresh with perks and very good. A more accessible option if you do not raid is Perfect Paradox from Episode Echoes, and this is kinetic, so it takes up that kinetic darkness slot, but it is a very good shotgun and it's pretty easy to farm. Lastly, a kind of older one is the Ikelos shotgun, and that is from Seraph Shield. It is also craftable, but it is solar, but it sits in that other slot, so you can kind of free up some space there. For the heavy weapon, I absolutely recommend a machine gun for the heavy Ordnance Regeneration. That's the one that gives 85% melee and grenade regen. I like Pro Memoria. It is Strand. It's very strong. It's a very good weapon archetype. You get it from just doing Pale Heart stuff, and it is craftable. And another option though is Watchful Eye from this episode, Heresy, and that is Arc, and it's the same frame, and it has a lot of great perk rolls too. If you get Rolling Storm on that, you could also mix in a little bit of Bolt Charge on this build, but doesn't super need it. All right, so just to show this off, I wanted to show some gameplay. This is from this week's Nightfall, which is Scarlet Keep. This is not GM, this is a standard Nightfall. I just did a match made. I just wanted to see how it works with random teammates and see if it works well. See, we were just kind of running through and just cleaving through enemies. Your Frenzied Blade seems like a single target attack, but it actually can't, has some AoE to it, so if you get a cluster of close enemies, you can wipe them all out. Just generally want to pop it whenever you can. And then anytime there's a bigger target like this, just try and use it on them to get their damage output down, and then when they die, you will get the Woven Mail hotspot. If you're curious about the armor, this is all from Crota's End. It's a very cool looking armor set, and it really fits this build and just what I'm going for with it. I'm gonna have to dodge around this bear champion so we can dunk this orb. We'll go help with that if he's still alive. Me realizing that my other teammate is moving very slowly to get their orb, so we'll wait for them and just make sure we can get these enemies. Tangles last for a good bit once you pick them up, so just hold on to them. They don't last forever though. You can see that kind of bursting spot there. Made another tangle because we've held that long enough. So we've got some good Woven Mail going here, and that keeps our melee regen going. Unraveling Rounds is very useful as an anti-barrier counter this episode, so that's very helpful too, just getting that on orbs. And then we've got our supercharged up pretty early in this nightfall, so we're just going to churn through these whole group of enemies. The super has access to suspend on a heavy attack, which is really good for these unstoppable champions. You can see in this next section, I get a little bit reckless and I'm just taking pretty constant fire, but the pretty much constant Woven Mail and Banner of War pulses, it's hard to know how many Banner of War stacks we're up to because we have too many buffs. Yeah, we're at max stacks right now because we've just been consistently killing, but that's just keeping us very topped up on health. Like here, I'm fighting this barrier champion while Shrieker just shoots at me, and you can see the health bar barely moving. Once again, those machine guns can take the unraveling rounds, and that will give you anti-barrier, and that is helpful. And we're just going to slap Blizzard. Now, skipping a little bit ahead, this is at the boss fight of this nightfall. And this can be a kind of chaotic room, so being kind of mobile and having good damage resistance and some debuffs on enemies to lower their output can really help. See, we've got that tangle here. You can really decide what you want to do with these. You can use them a little bit more offensively, or you can beam your teammates with them to give them Woven Mail. Sometimes you can do both if your teammates are close enough, which is what we did here. Just threw it at the boss, and our teammate has Woven Mail too. I think they're trying out a Lament build, so good luck to them. It is a good build, but it takes some practice. Once again, just putting that barricade out just to kind of trigger the Heart of Inmost Light loop. And just, if you get a chance, look at the regen of our abilities in the bottom left. It is really consistent and really fun. Gonna grab this ally, and once again, just very tanky. This room is really fantastic for this, because as long as you're securing kills somewhat regularly, there's Woven Mail hotspots all over the place. But you do have to stay kind of close to enemies to make sure that you are taking advantage of them. Teammate knocked the boss's health down, so we are just gonna deal with the next enemy spawn. This will include some champions here, but fortunately our super is back up again. And we'll just demolish this champion. And we just hit some curse thralls because we have enough damage resistance and healing to deal with it. And then we're just going to punch out this boss. And that's pretty much it. So just to summarize the gameplay loop, and this will take a little bit of practice to get down and just fully get, but it's all about maximizing that Heart of Inmost Light loop and keeping everything moving. So if you want to secure a melee kill to trigger Banner of War, and you can do this either with Frenzied Blade or Grapple Melee, but I would recommend prioritizing Frenzied Blade because you will ideally sever that enemy, and then when they die you get the Woven Mail, which triggers everything else. If you don't get Woven Mail immediately, grab the Tangle that will spawn because you just killed a debuffed enemy, and throw that at enemies, charge that space to make sure your Woven Mail is refreshed or started, and you can shotgun some enemies between the melees, and then with stronger targets for 1-2 punch. Place your barricade when possible just to keep those abilities looping, and then throw Tangles as much as possible for you and allies, because that will bring your cooldown of your Tangles down thanks to the Vile Weave artifact perk. And then Blade Fury is really good for harder targets or large crowds if you just need to churn through them, as you saw in the gameplay. And that's pretty much it. It's not super complicated, but it does take a little bit of practice if you're not used to the Heart of Inmost Light loop, but we have a lot of regen here and it makes it pretty manageable. As I wrap up, I'm just going to sit on that build review so you can see the pros and cons and some of the numbers here. Overall, a lot of fun with this build. I kind of theory crafted it before the episode launched, and then I tried it out and immediately liked it a lot. I actually tried it out and forgot to turn on the artifact perks at first. I'm like, this is really strong. And I was like, oh, I didn't even have the artifact perks on. And it got a lot better with that, but I think it's really solid in teams and just kind of a cool vibe. I like Titan being aggressive, but I also like when they can kind of provide that team support and damage resistance and all that. It feels kind of like a really good niche for Titans, and I think that's cool. That's pretty much all I've got for today. I want to thank everybody for the support on the channel. It's been growing really well, which makes me really happy. And I appreciate all the comments, especially all the ones appreciating the channel. I generally just try and make content that I would like to see and try and make it as convenient as possible. On that note, I will have a dim link and a Mobalytics link in the description. I will have these slides linked in the description. I'll have a link to the Destiny data compendium if you want to see any of the information that this came from. I just want to make the video as convenient as possible for you. I will have timestamps throughout for every section of this. So if you need to refer back to something, you get to it quickly. I just want to make it convenient and nice for you because that's what I like as well. If you like all that, make sure you like and subscribe and all that stuff because that helps YouTube show my videos to more people and also helps me out. With that, thank you again, and I'll catch you in the next one.